Welcome to Larry's Library. After several weeks, I have finished Incredible Hulk Omnibus Volume 1. And we're going to get into that now. And I'm going to show some high-res scans as usual. And we're going to talk about it. So this one is, of course, it's a Marvel Omnibus. So it's a nice oversized format, 792 pages. The list on this is $100. But as I like to say, don't be a chump. Buy it from a good discounter like InStockTrades.com, where you can get it for about 62 bucks. So I didn't have any problem with the build on this one. It's pretty robust, although I do have an older printing. I think it might be a first printing, so it has the really thick pages that they don't use that great anymore. It's thinner now if you get the current build, current printing of it. But it's probably still fine. You know, I didn't have any separation or anything, and it even let me scan it. But you'll see from these scans that, you know, I can't scan the entire page of any omnibus on my flatbed without breaking the book, and I'm not going to do that. So that's why it's cut off on one side. You'll notice it. The seam side is cut in the image, that is. So, creators on this one, of course, almost the entire volume is written by Stan Lee. Now, the only one that is not written by Stan Lee is the final issue collected here, which is the first, well, not the first, well, it's issue 102, technically, but that would be the 7th issue of the Incredible Hulk title. And I'll explain that in a minute. But that one is written by Gary Friedrich. Of course, he is best known for being the creator of Ghost Rider, you know. But the art is really something in this one. I mean, there's a lot of artists involved, but I'm going to hit the highlights here. Jack Kirby, of course, Steve Ditko, Marie Severin, Bill Everett, and many, many more. And there's also a big lineup of inkers, too. Some of the greatest ever. Herb Trimpe, Mike Esposito, the great Bill Everett inks some of these. Great stuff. Steve Ditko even inks and pencils some of the issues himself. And that is really something when you get to see Steve Ditko ink himself. I haven't seen it all that often, but when you get to see that, it's good. It's good stuff. So what this collects is the first 6 issues of The Incredible Hulk, the original series, that started in 1962. And then the series was canceled at issue 6. But the storyline continued more or less, and New Hulk Adventures went into the Tales to Astonish title. Now that was always 2 different stories in there. You know, it would be the Hulk and Giant Man, or the Hulk and Ant-Man, or a lot of it was the Hulk and Submariner. So they weren't 22-page stories of the Hulk. They were probably more like 14 to 16 pages, somewhere in that neighborhood, maybe less, per issue. And it ran like that all the way to issue 101. So Tales to Astonish 59 through 101 was all half Hulk story, and then shared with another hero. Then after issue 101, Tales to Astonish ended, at least that edition of it, and it was retitled Incredible Hulk. So that's how you get from Incredible Hulk 1 through 6, and then issue 102, yeah. So Tales to Astonish went to 101, and then it became Incredible Hulk at 102. And then when he picked up there, that's when Gary Friedrich wrote that issue. Stan was off of it. So it took me a long time to get through this, partly because this is some very early work. So the panels are much smaller. There's a lot more narration. It's very text heavy, and you know, admittedly, it was a bit of a slog at times, but it was worth getting through because in this one, you get to see the evolution of the Hulk as a character. They experimented with a lot of different things that later were changed, and you get to see those changes take place. Like he was gray at first before he became green. Most people know that, but he was also the way he would change. He would change when at first he only changed at night. He would change into Hulk at night, and then by daylight he'd turn back into Bruce Banner. And then that was scrapped after a little while. And then Stan explained it by, well, when his pulse rate gets above normal, above a certain threshold, he changes into the Hulk. And And that presented some logical problems for me because, well, they would also have him revert back to Banner when the Hulk's pulse rate would go above a certain arbitrary number, would go above a certain median, which that never made any sense to me because here you got the Hulk and he's battling some monster or something. I mean, if you're in a fist fight, even if you're the Hulk, isn't your pulse rate going to go up? I mean, automatically. If you fall off the side of a mountain, isn't your pulse rate going to go up? So, I mean, to me, he should be changing the Banner every 2 minutes. I mean, that's crazy. So, I don't think, well, I know for sure because I just finished reading it, but in this omnibus, any of the issues covered here, they never really explain exactly what triggers, the change back and forth. I mean, at one point they even had him changing by way of a gamma ray machine. He had his own lab that he had tucked away in this cave, and he would go in there when he wanted to change back and forth and step on a button on the floor. Or sometimes he'd have Rick Jones operate the machine, yeah, and change him back and forth. Yeah, so clearly Stan didn't have it worked out, but he was trying, and you get to see him work through that in this, and that is pretty entertaining. But the art is what's really special. You've got Steve Ditko, like I said. You've got Kirby. After a while, Kirby was off the book, but then he started doing layouts, really rough layouts from what I understand. And Eaker would fill in everything else. And some of the results, that's pretty spectacular. So, I mean, you'll see in these scans, and I'll give credit for each one. And Stan Lee, he created a lot of good stuff to one degree or another, depending on which version of the legend you want to believe. But he at least co-created a lot of things, and usually they were pretty damn good. But when he failed in a big way. And one of those failures was the villain named Boomerang. This has got to be one of the dumbest villains ever. Just a silly costume, a silly concept. It was just such an eye-rolling groan every time this character came on. I just hated him. I mean, look at this costume. And he's got these poofy arms on the costume. What it reminded me of is, it reminded me of the Seinfeld Low Talker episode where Jerry is wearing the pirate shirt. That's what it reminded me of. I mean, look at it.
Look at it. It's fantastic.
I mean, really? And then look at this panel here. Look at this panel. I was thinking about, what does this look like? Look at the poofy shirt, and then read this balloon here. In the scan that I did of the book page, it cuts it off. So I'll put a larger one here. Check this out. He keeps these little discs on his blouse. That's right, on his blouse. I mean, what? What the hell? What were they thinking? And you would think a character named Boomerang would use a boomerang, right? Well, not really. I mean, he has a boomerang and he uses it occasionally, but mostly he uses these little goofy red discs that I guess they're magical. I don't know, because there's no scientific explanation. He can fling them real fast, but the thing is, they can cut through sheer metal. He can cut through anything. It shows him cutting through the steering column of a car at one point. Another time, it shows it cutting the barrel this way of a gun. Just cuts right through it. And he's just flinging them with his hands, a little red disc. It's stupid. But I still cannot quit thinking of the Seinfeld thing. I mean, look
at it. It's fantastic.
Right? Boomerang has the Seinfeld puffy shirt. And then there's lots of little things that I assume some writer somewhere eventually tied this up. I hope so. I tried to research this and I couldn't find anything about it. But in one issue, Banner is damn near cured by the Silver Surfer. Check this out. The Silver Surfer says he can zap him with the power cosmic and take all of the gamma cells out of his blood and he'll be cured. So why didn't he do it? Well, because the Hulk, he was in the Hulk mode at that point, and he just kind of slaps the Surfer away, and that's the end of that cure. Now, but like I said, the wild thing about it is, Later on, years later, the Hulk is part of the Defenders. Well, he's part of the Avengers first, and then eventually he becomes a Defender, and he's a mainstay in that group for years and years. And one of his partners is a Silver Surfer. So you gotta, I gotta wonder, why didn't this come up again, or did it, and I just haven't read it. I mean, there's so many books out there, and hell, I forget some of the ones I've read. When you've been reading comic books for 40 years, you're not gonna remember all these little details. You know, I wish I could say I did, but of course I do not. So if someone knows, put that down in the comments, because I'd like to know how that was ever explained. You know, why didn't the Surfer try again? You know, after he became friends with the Hulk and Banner years later, and they were comrades, why didn't he say, hey, you know, I could cure you. You know, I almost did it that one time, and then you bitch slapped me. So you know, I don't know. So yeah, I kind of, I wonder if maybe Peter David fixes or goes back and sews that one up, because he ran, you know, he wrote the Hulk for so many decades. I'm about to start that run soon, but I wanted to read this book, this volume first. So maybe it's in there, or maybe it's somewhere else. But getting back to this volume specifically, my favorite parts, though, are toward the end of the book, when Marie Severin comes on as penciler. And man, I gotta say, she is so underrated and underappreciated as an artist. She's fantastic here. She's fantastic on everything I've seen her on. I mean, she's just an incredible cover artist for Marvel during this period and later. You see her work on all kinds of stuff. And she wrote, I think she drew the first 8 or 10 issues of Call the Conqueror later. And it is spectacular. But I don't want to get off on a tangent about her, but she's fantastic. And during her run as artist on this, begins the High Evolutionary storyline. And it's one of my favorites here. And I think that by this time, Stan was starting to get his groove on what to do with the Hulk. I mean, he still hadn't worked out the whole transformation thing, right? But the storyline with the High Evolutionary is really, really good. I thought it was some solid writing by Stan Lee here. Really like that a lot. It's great art, like I said, by Marie Severin. I think she's inked by Herb Trimpe here. And later on, probably in volume 2, that's going to come out, I think, later this year, or maybe early next year, we're going to get into a whole lot more Marie Severin, Herb Trimpe art. And for me, the visual look of the Hulk is sort of defined in my mind by 2 people, well, 3 people: Marie Severin, Herb Trimpe, and Sal Buscema. When I think of the Incredible Hulk, that is the image that I have in my mind, is the way those 3 depicted the Hulk. So yeah, so you know, there was a large part in the middle there where it was a real slog to get through, but this last chunk was really fun for me, and I really enjoyed that High Evolutionary story. So I think this book is a must-have if you're a big Incredible Hulk fan. And if you're a fan of Marvel history, then this is sort of a must-have for you too, because you get to see the Hulk's origin and his development over the years. He still isn't quite to the Hulk that we know in modern times by the end of this, but he's getting there. And in large part due to Marie Severin. So I give this one 7 out of 10. The same score I gave to the Marvel Monster Omnibuses by Lee and Kirby, which was kind of around the same era, well, probably about 10 years before, and then leading into this area where, you know, some of the storylines are hokey and everything doesn't pan out, but it does set up the characters and the plots and the legend of the Hulk that eventually becomes the Hulk that we know and love today. So yeah, I'm glad I have it in my library, and it's going to stay there for sure. Yeah, and if you want to know the Hulk's origins for real, then this is the book you want to get. And that's all I got this week. Hope you like taking a look at this and seeing some of this classic artwork. Come back for more. If you haven't subscribed already, please do that. And give me a thumbs up if you like this. And I'll see you next time.